Good morning. Let's turn it up a little bit. Good morning. Fantastic. It's great to be here. Great to see smiling, happy faces. How many people have ever, talked to someone in the morning around probably 8, 9 a.m. sometimes, and they look mad and cranky and a little very unhappy? And you just go like, what are you mad about? You just woke up, okay? You go like, my day has been ruined because there was traffic on the highway, because their coffee maker did not work, because the alarm didn't go off. Come on. You guys are happy people. It's great to be here. My name is Isaac. Sheila said I'm from Kenya, and she kind of busted my bubble because I was about to lie to you and tell you that I'm from Lenexa, and this is how we talk. Uh, we are going to talk about pushing through the tough times. And almost every single time I get in front of people, people ask me, how do you get to push through tough times? Because the only time we think about pushing is when we have to push. And when you think about pushing, there's going to be some energy involved. There's going to be some work involved. That means you got to spend time, you got to spend energy. And I don't think anybody really wakes up every single morning thinking, I want to really work hard today. But we got to push through tough times whenever they come by. Now, I want you to look at the person next to you and tell them, I'm kind of a big deal. Just tell them that with confidence. Okay. I'm going to count 3, 2, 1. Tell them, I'm kind of a big deal. Loudly. 3, 2, 1. Let me just say that I respect you. I admire you for what you do. Because you guys, you got into an industry that only 13% of the people succeed in that industry. I looked it up. Those are the stats. And so many people get into the real estate industry, but only 13% of the people truly succeed. It's an industry where you wake up in the morning, you work all day, you go home tired, you make phone calls, you send emails, you talk to people, you have coffee sometimes with people you don't like, you know what I mean? All right? But again, you do it over and over and over again. So I really respect you for doing that. It takes passion, it takes grit, it takes resilience and determination to be able to do that. It's an industry, honestly, that I'm not sure I can survive in unless I get trained very well. Maybe I can do very well, but you guys, you do it every single day. As I was thinking about you, I thought about a few things. And as we talk about pushing through the tough times, I asked myself, what's one thing I can share with you that's probably going to help? Because I know you've attended so many trainings, probably workshops and seminars and conferences. And most likely everything I'm going to talk about you've heard before. And I asked myself, what's one thing I can share with you? And this is what came to my mind. And I'm not kidding. The future is predictable. The future is predictable. How many people know that tomorrow is going to be better than today? Okay, some of you are not very sure. I'm going to prove it to you. All right? Okay, how many of you, they kind of prepared themselves to come to this conference today? Okay, so what did you do? It was predictable. That's why you prepared. You made sure that you don't forget. You left your house early if you live very far away like me, all the way the other side of my village in Lenexa. That's where I live. Okay, you plan. So the future is predictable. But from a business perspective, you know that if you do certain activities, you make phone calls, you send emails, you talk to people, you do several showings. I think that's what you guys call them. It's a numbers game. It's very, very predictable. Now, it doesn't mean that it's going to turn out the way you expect, but the future is very predictable. And when you know that it's predictable, you can move with the confidence. You can take a step and another one because you know you're going to get some kind of a result. There are people that I meet many, many times and they just whine and complain about their life and their business and their spouses and their cat. I'm like, come on, why would you complain about a cat, okay? First off, you're the one who brought the cat to their house, okay? And it's a cat. They complain about everything, the government, but you should not do that because you are the elites of the world. Go ahead and give yourself a big round of applause, please. Now, this is not important to you, but I'll tell you why it's relevant. I used to be an engineer in my previous world, and people ask me, okay, why did you leave engineering? And hey, my very simple response is, when I was in engineering, they told me that I'm too friendly and I smile too much, so I left. And they also asked me, why did you get into speaking? And then I go back to when I was growing up, 5, 6, 7. My mother used to tell me, you talk too much. So I decided to find a job that I can just talk all day and get paid. So that's why I'm in speaking. But how this is relevant is because it's all about a dream. I grew up in Kenya, and It's an interesting place. Not just Kenya, Nairobi, those that have been to Kenya. I grew up in the village. And a village is a place where you don't find a lot of resources. And I'm not talking about not having gas for your car, not having plumbing in your house. Those are the stories we tell in America. Your microwave not working and now you have to use the stove. That was not it. It was a place where we didn't have food. Really, would go 2 or 3 days without food. A place where even clothing, we had to borrow clothes from our neighbors if you're going to church, for those who go to church, or if you had to go to a sports game, you had to borrow clothes. And personally, I didn't have shoes for 9 years. I mean, until I went to, more than 9 years actually, until I went to high school, I didn't have closed shoes. That's why I tried to buy some nice fancy shoes, because I'm trying to make up for the years that I lost. They told me, if you want to be successful, you need to become an engineer, you need to become a doctor, you need to become a lawyer, or you become a business person. And I figured, hey, I'm good in math and sciences, and that's why I got into engineering. And then I moved to America 17 years ago, which was a big blessing. And I got to tell this story exactly a month ago. Someone asked me, hey, can you tell a story, your immigrant story? That's what they call it. And what they were expecting is for me to tell how I struggled, how America was so different, how I felt so sorry about myself. And I told them, no, I'm going to tell you how Kansas City has been a blessing for me. When I moved to America, it was the first time that people looked at me and they smiled and they waved. Strangers, people that I didn't know. The village that I grew up in, for some reason, they didn't like us. I don't know why. Part of it is because we were poor, like really very poor. And you get to know that you are poor when poor people tell you you are poor. Someone looks at you, go like, man, you are so poor. Go like, you don't have shoes too. You are poor. But it was a place that was really horrible. And the reason I'm telling you this story, because it's relevant to the business that I do and the business that you do. So here's what happened. My father left when I was 9 years old. I have 4 brothers, 2 sisters. We are 7 in my family. And when I was 9 years old, my father left, like really left the family, and got married to my stepmom, beautiful woman, great, great person. And basically, he abandoned his family. Now, people get curious about the African marriages. At that time, there was nothing like paperwork. So it's one of those times where you meet someone, they go like, I love you, you tell them I love you, let's get married, you get married, no paperwork. So when my dad left, my mom did not get anything. And my dad used to have a lot of money. My mother had not been to school, she couldn't read or write, so she couldn't get a professional job. And guess what she did? She had to work in people's farms. She had to clean people's houses. She had to do construction-like jobs to take care of all these 7 kids by herself. And the crazy thing is that my dad was actually next door. He used to live in the city, took an early retirement, came to the village, built a big home, really big house for himself, and we were living next door in an equivalent of 10 by 10 little house that was grass thatched, all of us in there. In America, people talk about, I'm working so hard to put food on the table. We didn't have a table. Okay, so my mom was working hard for us to put food on the floor because that's what we had. People talk about, I would like to have my own bed. There was no bed. But the point is, my mother worked so hard to feed her 7 kids. And here's the magic that happened. When I was in 5th grade, my mother sat me down and she said, I've heard people say that education is the key to success. And when I look at people, the teachers, the police officers, and people that work with the government, they have been to school. And she said, you look like you're really good with the books, but you play too much. Of course, I was a playful kid. I'm a kid. It's the 5th grade. And she said, if only you can stick in school and do well, you might be the person who is going to leave the village, go to high school, get a job, come back and save us from this environment. Now, that was heavy for someone who was in 5th grade. I was very young, but I got the message. And then I got to 6th grade, and I met a teacher called Mr. Nathan. Mr. Nathan was a very cool guy. He dressed up very nicely. He spoke very well. And he called me to the office one day and he said, I know your situation. I've seen you lay down during lunchtime and just, take a nap because I know you are hungry. Because when all the other kids are playing, when you didn't have dinner the previous night and you didn't have breakfast, you are physically weak. So that's what I would do. And he said, I've been watching you doing all these things. I know your situation. And I want to help you out. I want to teach you how to communicate, how to read and write, because communication is going to open doors for you. I want you to go to high school. I want you to go to college. I want you to get a job so you can help your family. He painted that picture for me on what's possible. This is someone who didn't have to. He was just my teacher. And then my principal, it's amazing how things work. Now, I'm a person of faith, so I talk about God a lot, okay? It's amazing how God really designs things. About a week later, the principal called me and said, I know your situation, and I know you usually don't have lunch when all the other kids are eating. So I just want you to come to my office every lunchtime. I'm going to split my lunch with you. And that's what happened for 3 years. Someone who didn't have to do that. And the reason I'm telling you this is because my relatives, my neighbors, everybody, they were making fun of us. You know, I've told this story before, Kerry, when we met at the other event that I spoke at. And for some reason, you know, in America, people talk behind your back, okay? And we get mad about that. Africans, we are very shameless. We just talk right to your face, okay? That's what they do. Yeah, these people just look at me and go like, Isaac, you're not going to amount to anything. Okay, you come from a poor family. Your dad left you because he doesn't love you. Your dad left your mom because he doesn't love your mom. And it was horrible. And I'm like, why would you say that to a 10-year-old, to a 12-year-old, to an 11-year-old? They did that. But the thing that I remember, two incidents. I was coming from school with my brother David. He is a year older than me. We passed by the market, and there were men and women sitting outside a coffee shop, the rich people, those who had money. You know, coming to think of it, they were not that rich, okay? They just had a little bit of money. But by those standards, they were rich. And one of the ladies, she kind of spoke something loudly, and I think she wanted us to hear. She said, you see those boys? They are going to grow up to become thieves and thugs who will be breaking into our houses. We need to be vigilant. We need to be careful. We can't allow them to hang out with our kids. And that's what they did. I didn't have friends. Now, there was a big advantage to that. And everything that you go through has a silver lining. Me not having friends, I was able to focus in school. Now, nobody beat me in class, not because I was the smartest, but because that's how I did, just to study, study, study. My mother's voice, okay, you might be the one to go to high school, go to college, come back and save us. My English teacher's voice, I want you to learn how to communicate. You go to college, you go to high school. My principals interest in me, and now all this stuff that's happening. And I'm telling you this because every single thing that you go through contributes towards your success, right? So fast forward, I went to high school, went to college, became an engineer, came to the US, and then I decided to get into business 9 years ago. So this is what I do, speaking, training, and coaching. Now, how this is relevant is because it doesn't matter where you come from. You don't have to come from Kenya. Okay, so Kenya, I was talking to Kenny. He is from England. And by the way, he was a cop for many, many years in Kansas City. Right? So you left your country. Every time you leave your village, you leave your town, even when you go out of town from Kansas City, going to Arizona or Los Angeles or New York, you freak out. And that's what happened to me when I was coming from Kenya. Now, I knew that there were so many opportunities in the US. Because when you think about it, I went to high school, went to college, got a job, a very good job, but I would get paid today and the following morning I would be broke because I had 4 brothers, I had 2 sisters, and my mother that I had to take care of. I decided to keep my promise to my mother that I was going to take care of them. But I didn't have enough money, so I had to find a way to make more money. And I decided to leave and come to the US. And what happened, I had a dream on one hand and hope and optimism on the other hand. And I was sharing this story about a month ago when they asked me to share my immigrant story. And what I told them is that when I got to the airport, I was excited and scared at the same time, whereby I can see the other side that is going to be possibly is going to be good, but I'm also leaving my family behind. I knew it was going to take not less than 5 years before I see my family. That was tough for me. My 4 brothers, my 2 sisters, especially my 2 younger brothers, they were like my kids. I was worried about them. I was worried about my mother. My mother had health issues, but I got on that plane, and as soon as I got on that plane, I cried. Now, it takes a lot to get an African man to cry, just so you know, okay? We are taught not to cry. Just man up and be strong. So that's why we suppress our emotions until we explode, right? But I cried when I got on the plane. But it's been a big blessing coming to the US because I ventured into a world that I didn't know how it was going to be, and Kansas City has been a big blessing for me. All right, so let's talk about pushing through the tough times. There's a book called Tough Times Never Last, but Tough People Do. I read this book when I was in college, 2001. And even though I was in college, I was still struggling because, again, people in the village got together, they raised money, they took me to college, and I was still struggling because my mother is sick, my brothers are going to school, and then I came across this book. Actually, a friend of mine gave me this book, and I read that book, and the vision that I had was that if I can hold on enough, then things are going to change. It says, tough times never last, but tough people do. It's like seasons. Seasons come and seasons go. And actually, that's what my mother told me. When I was going to high school, she said, Isaac, when you go to high school, it was a boarding high school, she said you are going to hang out with the rich kids, people that have everything that they need. They have all the shoes, all the clothes, all the food. She said you need to stay focused because problems come and problems go. Seasons come and seasons go. So I came across this book and I came across this quote from that book. It says, when you go through tough times, and the key word is when, not if, because it's going to happen. How many people have gone through tough times? Anybody who's going through a tough time right now? Okay. We all go through tough times. We are going to go through tough times. It's when you go through tough times, you need to get inspired to hold on until the light breaks. And the key word is, if it's at night, basically it's dark, you're going through a very tough time, it doesn't seem like you're going to succeed or you're going to be able to go to the next level. You just need to hold on until the light breaks. Day follows night. After night comes day. The light is going to break. The tide is going to turn. You know, when you think about a tide, by the tallest tides that have ever been is about 35 feet. So when the tide goes all the way up, it's going to come down. So if you're going through a tough time and you're holding onto a paddle and you go all the way up, you're going to come down. The question is, are you going to hold on enough for you to come down alive and be able to continue building your business? And of course, the time is going to change for the better. I said the future is very predictable. The time always changes for the better. If you're sick, you're going to get well. If your business is down, it's going to go up. There's nowhere else it can go. If it's down, it's going to go up. And this is what I like. You need to dig in and bloom where you are planted. Now, here you are working with Remax. It's a great company. I believe it was started in 1973. There was a dream that I believe it's Dan that had, okay? So you got to dig in and bloom where you're planted. And to dig in, it means you need to get roots. You need to grow. You need to read books. You need to go to listen to podcasts. You need to show up to trainings. You need to talk to your mentors and ask questions. And then you bloom where you are planted. And then inspire people with your cheerful attitude when you are going through obviously tough times. And the key word is obviously tough times. When your business is bad, it's evident because we always know when someone is not doing very well. You can hide all you want. You can just take a shower and you put it on your makeup if you like to do that, and you have nice shoes and wear a suit like this. But when you're going through tough times, we always know because we see, especially when we slow down, we can see what you're not telling us. We can hear what you're not saying. And that's what we do as leaders, because all of you are leaders. That's what Shayla said. You're all leaders. Leaders get to see what people are not showing you because you want to help them. But again, when you have a cheerful attitude, when you're going through obviously tough times, that's inspiring for people, and that's what you should do. All right, so let's talk about conquering tough times. And I picked this word, conquering, is because you got to fight. You know, when your business is not doing well, or your health is not doing well, or your family is not doing well, and your relationships, you have to fight. And whether you're going to punch, you're going to kick, you're going to do whatever that it is, you have to. And you have to conquer the tough times. So I'm going to walk you through 5 steps on how to do that. Number 1, you need to have a dream. A dream is a vision of your future. And I said the future is predictable. It's being able to see the future from the present, being able to know that by all means I'm going to be successful. Not because you have all the knowledge, not because you have all the resources, not because you are the most intelligent person, but because you can feel it. You see it in your mind and you feel it in your heart. How many people have felt that? They know I'm going to be successful. How many people have a vision about their business that I know I'm going to be a multi-million-dollar producer? I know you guys, you believe in that, and it's a great thing. Because being a multi-million-dollar producer, it's not just about the money. It's about the lives that you change in the process. Many years ago, I worked for Chick-fil-A when I was in college. Actually, right after college, I worked with them for about a year and a half as their trainee director. And there's something that I was taught, and it was instilled over and over and over again. They said, we are not in the chicken business. We are not in the, we are not in the business selling, we are not in the chicken sandwich business or chicken nugget business. They said we are in the people business selling chicken sandwiches. We are in the people business selling chicken nuggets. And that's why Chick-fil-A has been very successful. The same thing for you. You are not in the real estate business. You are not in the business of buying and selling houses. You are in the business of changing lives. You are in the business of transforming lives. You are in the business of making sure that people can build memories. When someone buys, especially their first home, they're usually very proud. We see them on Facebook. Someone buys their first home, they put it out there, and they don't care because finally they bought a home. Maybe it's something that they have been thinking about. A lot of them have stories, and I know you've heard them. They say, I grew up in a place where it was a small apartment, all of us living there. There was no heat, there was no plumbing, and I've always wanted to have a home so my kids can have a place to enjoy. You help people to build memories through gatherings like, we just had Thanksgiving. They gather together. They bring their friends. They are going to be very proud. You're also in the business of helping people to build their confidence. Because when you have good stuff and when you work so hard and you accomplish something, that builds your confidence. So you got to have a dream. And the question is, what's your dream for yourself, for your business, for your relationships? What's your dream? You got to have that dream. Someone asked me the other day, when did you know that you become a speaker and you become a trainer? And I said, right now, looking back, I know I was going to be a speaker when I was 11 years old. Now, in Kenya, you can imagine in the village, something about speaking and coaching that did not exist. But when I look back, God planted that in me. So here's what happened. My mom took us to church. She was a church lady, and I'm a church guy, okay? Church boy, Jesus boy. She took us to church, and it wasn't like one of those, let's go to church. You'll be like, okay, let's go to church. And if you don't want to go to church, you're going to get spanked. Let's go and talk about the love of Jesus. But like, why? You just spanked me, and you want us to go to church to talk about the love of Jesus? It didn't make sense. But I'm glad she did. So she enrolled me to be part of the group that was going to recite Bible verses. The bishop was coming to town. That was a big deal. It was a small church. The bishop was coming from Nairobi, the big city, and the place was a very small church, but we cleaned it, we swept, and it was all good. And we got into a small room so we can get on stage. And I had memorized my lines, and there was two little boys in front of me, and then it was me. And when my time came, I froze. I forgot my lines. How many people have ever gotten on stage and you forgot something? And you're like, what do I do? Okay? So I forgot my lines, and I was just there, and the boys behind me, they got tired, so they pushed me on stage. Yeah, they did, actually. I really stumbled on stage, and I stood there, and I looked at the people, and I was like, I freaked out. It was like 600 people there. And I stood there, and it took me, I think, about 30, 45 seconds, which according to me, it was like an hour. And then I remembered my lines, and I started reciting those verses. It was only 3 verses. And my volume went up and up and up and up and up. And people thought I was just passionate about it, and they started clapping. But the volume was going up because I was freaked out. And when I was done, I ran out of stage, and I was like, whew, I'll never do that again. And when I was done, the bishop asked for me. And he said, I want that boy, the boy who spoke with so much passion, to come, and I want to talk to him. And he gave me 5 Kenya shillings. 5 shillings is an equivalent of a penny. By the way, that's what it is, by the conversion, just a penny. So my first speaking engagement, I got paid a penny. 5 shillings, okay? I took the money. My mom, of course, being a church lady, all dressed up, she was very, very excited and proud of her boy. She had done a good job because the bishop asked for me. And then after that, my mom was like, you need to do that again. I said, no, I almost died on stage. I'm not going to do that. and then she said, you know what, you are very young, so let me have the money. I'll keep the money for you, then I can give it to you during Christmas to buy something for you. Now you can predict what happened. I didn't get the money. When I asked my mom for the money, she said, I'll give it to you. And then I'll give it to you. Then at some point, she's like, do you pay bills over here? Do you feed yourself? Basically, yeah, she refused to give me my money. So my mother was my first manager, and she embezzled my funds. Step number 2. So step number 1, have a dream. Number 2, you need to keep the dream alive. Just because you have a dream and you know how, you can feel it in your heart, you can see it in your mind, it doesn't mean that it's going to stay alive. Because here's what happens, and I've experienced this. When you have a dream, it's usually not a full picture. It's usually a glimpse, just a glimpse of how things could be. You make one sale, the first sale, you get excited, you celebrate, you make a second one, and you know you can be a multi-million-dollar producer. You see that dream. But again, you start questioning yourself. Can I do it? I've been doing it for 2 years. I've been doing it for 3 years. Other people are succeeding. Am I in the wrong office? Okay. Do I have the right mentor? I don't like my coach. And you keep on talking, and you are doubting yourself. And then people come around and go like, hey, Kerry, how is everything going? And you want to tell them the truth that is really tough, but you can't tell them because you are trying to toughen up. And especially if it's your family, the people that love you. Now, I've met with people that got into business because they can feel it in their hearts, that they can do very well. And their spouse is the only one working. They are trying to build a business, and every time they go home, their spouse asks them, how is business going? When are you going to start making money? When are you going to start helping with the bills? And they're stressed out, and they tell me these things. Now, I can't tell their husbands, hey, your wife is stressed out, or tell the wife that your husband is stressed out. But the people that we care about, they ask with good intentions, but we can feel it, only that they cannot feel it. You can see it, but they cannot see it. And the key thing, your dream is your dream. It doesn't belong to your husband or your kids or your neighbor or your mentor. Your dream is your dream. And that's why people cannot understand it. You got to keep it alive. How do you keep it alive? By surrounding yourself with people that care about you. By staying in the zone. Going to the office. If you're part of an office, I know, I don't know much about real estate, but I know we have people that never go to the office. They never get to hang out with anyone. I just want to do my thing. Especially when you are starting out, you can't be by yourself. Hang out with those people. But the most important thing, you need to stand up for yourself. I'll tell you this. When I got into business in 2014, I registered the business in 2014, ran it part-time for 2 years, then I went full-time in 2016. I was excited, very excited. So I told everybody that I knew from my church and by my people, I call them my people. These are my friends from Kenya. In Kansas City, we have about 20,000 people. Don't be impressed. They don't help much, okay? They really don't. And the sense they don't help is because they didn't see my dream. And I figured that coaching and training and speaking is a foreign concept for us and Africans from Africa, and probably most of the people, most of the immigrants. I told them that I'm going to do this coaching thing, this speaking. I just got certified. I can feel it. And they were like, you're going to do what? And they were like, why can't people just read the books for themselves? Why do you have to tell them what to do? So I went to the most senior person that I knew, and that was my pastor, and I told him about that. And then I got a small office inside the church to start building my business. I was paying $200 a month, and I was there going diligently, 7 in the morning, stay there until 6 p.m. And I was there for 3 months. Then one day he called me, and he said, Isaac, how is business going? And I was like, okay, here we go, because I didn't have a good story. And I said, it's okay. I'm believing it. I can feel it. It's going to work. And he said, I've seen so many people build businesses, and I believe in you. And then he gave me a few examples of some, of course, Kenyans that have built business. And he said, most of the people that I know have a part-time job, have a night job. Why don't you just get a night job? And then if the business works, that's okay. If it doesn't work, then that's fine. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't believe in having a plan B. If I decide to do something, I'm just going to do it. And I told him, no, Pastor, you don't understand. I can feel it. I know it's going to succeed. It's going to be good. And he looked at me and he said, Isaac, can I talk to you as a parent, but not as your pastor? And I was like, okay, here we go again. When someone tells you, let me talk to you as a parent, you know you're about to get that talk. And he said, let me ask you a question. By the way, do you have a girlfriend? I said, no. He said, okay, maybe that's the problem. And he was like, what do you mean? And he said, women like security. So according to all the girls in church, you don't have a job. And I was like, maybe they're right. And then I remembered, hey, you have no idea. My last girlfriend was not that good, so forget about it, okay? So it hit me very quickly, and I can't take credit for it. I believe a thought came to me, and I was like, it doesn't matter how much I explain to this particular person, they're not going to get it. So I said, I'll pray about it. By the way, I lied because I did not pray about it. I just stepped out, and I walked away, and I said, I'm going to protect my dream. I'm going to keep it alive. I'm going to keep on pushing. And then I talked to someone else, and that's when I figured I need to get mentors. Then I met Chris. Chris right there is a friend of mine. So Chris, we entrepreneurial in 2016. We went to Panera Bread. By the way, Chris was flying. I mean, he was cool. He was driving a BMW, okay? That time, I was driving a 1998 Lincoln Continental, okay? People used to tell me that I drive an old man car, and then I would tell them, but it's comfortable, it's a comfortable car, but and it was embarrassing, and like, nobody's gonna date me driving this, Lincoln Continental. Hey, let me just date my business. I met with Chris, we talked, and then we went to a conference together, and Chris and I, we met several times, and there's something that I didn't tell him. I was struggling big time. Big time. At that time, I had I got a girlfriend towards the end of 2016, and I promised her that I was going to marry her. And here I am, my business was not doing very well. I had to keep it alive. So that's one thing that you have to do. Keep your dream alive. Number 3, protect the dream. Protect the dream. People are going to come after your dream for some reason. People are going to look at you like those women in the village. They say, you see that boy, he's going to grow up to become a thief and a thug, and we have to be very careful. Even when I became an adult, they still come after me. Now, right now, I really don't care because I know that the future is predictable. I published my book last year, and for some reason, it became a bestseller. Okay, we are about to release the second version of it. The second book is coming out in February. Now, I've been blessed enough to be able to feed my family. Oh, I didn't tell you this, by the way. I have a wife and 2 kids. Just one, okay? Just one wife. I know I'm from Africa, but it's only one wife, okay? So I'm able to feed my wife and my 2 kids through my business. And this is not to impress you. but to impress upon you that it's possible. But even when I've been able to experience that level of success, people still don't believe it. I've heard people go like, okay, somebody said, probably you did not write that book. Someone else did, and that's okay. We have ghostwriters, but I know I wrote it. Maybe you have this thing where you are getting on stage. Most likely you are not getting paid. People are always going to doubt you because it's not their dream. So you have to protect the dream. In 2015, again, I was a single guy, didn't have a girlfriend. I was starting out, and I got a gig in Wichita, Kansas, which was about 2.5 hours from where I was. And I was going to be paid $150 to drive myself to Wichita, drive back using my car. Basically, I did not make money, right? But on my way to Wichita, I got a call from a friend. Now, this friend was married to someone who was attending one of my mastermind classes on leadership. I was starting out, trying things out. And this guy called me and he said, you know what? I was talking to my wife the other day, and she said that she is attending this class that you're doing. She loves it. And then I went to another friend's house, and we were like 5 guys, and we were talking, and your name came up. And I was like, okay, that's good. What did they say? They said, one of the guys said, Isaac is doing this leadership speaking thing, and I don't think he's going to make it. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. And then I said, okay, why do they think I'm not going to make it? And another guy said, Isaac has tried so many businesses. I don't think this one is going to work either. Now, they were right on one thing. I have tried many businesses. But in my mind, I was like, why would you tell me that? So again, a thought came to me. According to me, the Spirit gave me, that thought. But whatever that I said was not very spiritual after that. And I asked him, his name is Bernard. I said, okay, Bernard, since you are my friend, why were they so comfortable to talk about me when you were there? He said, no, I defended you. I told them that you work hard, you're a good guy, all the kind of stuff that people say. And I said, okay, here's what I know. I think you are one of those people that don't believe I can succeed. And this is what we are going to do. I said, I'm going to Wichita. As soon as I get there, I'm going to block you on Facebook. That's the time when Facebook was cool. I said, I'm going to block you on Facebook. I'm going to block you on my phone. And I don't want to talk to you for about a year. And I'll see whether this thing works. If it works, that's okay. If it doesn't work, I'm going to try something else. You see, when you have a dream, it never lets you settle down. You got to keep going. I didn't know whether speaking was going to work, or the coaching, or the training. I knew there was a dream for me to make a difference in people's lives. And that's what happened. I got to Wichita. I couldn't wait to park my car so I can block this guy. I blocked him, and it felt really good. In Jesus' name. It felt good. I blocked him. Fast forward, we had an event at our church. This guy showed up. He used to dress up really good. And I showed up a little bit, before the event came, there were several guys standing on the side. I don't know what is it with people being in circles, talking lots of nonsense. They were just there. Anyway, as I was passing by, this guy was like, hey, Isaac, are you still doing that thing? I was like, which thing? The thing about, you talking to people. He couldn't even get himself to call it speaking, training, and coaching. And I looked at him and I said, yeah, I'm still doing that thing. And I think I'm making more money than you. Now, you shouldn't say that to people. That was evil. I just had to get back at him, okay? I don't know how much money he made. But you can't let people kill your dreams. So I went in. The point is, you are the only one who can protect your dream. No one else, because you know where you're going. Number 4, stay focused. Stay focused. This is something that my mother taught me, and she said, if you can stay focused on your goal and what you're working on, then you're going to come out the other side. Seasons come and seasons go. And I've learned this in my business. When you know what you're working on, you got to stay on that lane and keep on working on it. There are going to be distractions, okay? Other people telling you need to shift from this office, go to another office. You need to move from Remax and go to another company. You need to do this and that, okay? Stay focused. So long as you have a blueprint, which I know your company has a blueprint, if you do this and this and this, you guys are numbers people. Stay focused. Okay, stay focused on your routine. Stay focused on your marketing. Stay focused on your showings. Stay focused on meeting with people. Whatever that you do, you got to stay focused. I want to give you an analogy. Now, I'm from Kenya, so whenever I tell people that I'm from Kenya, they ask me, so do you run? Because they think every single Kenyan runs. Go like, everybody runs, especially if someone is coming after you. You got to run. That's true. Now, I don't run that much, but hey, and don't be impressed because Kenyans, we just wake up and run for no reason, okay? So you can imagine if you're one of the runners, especially if you're sprinting, 100-yard sprint, and you get on the starting line, you have all these other people, and the gun goes off. Now, remember that you have people on the bleachers, okay? On the side, you have your family, your friends, people cheering you on, and the moment the gun goes off, you start running. Let me ask you a question. If anybody calls your name from the sides, from the sidelines, are you going to look at them when you're running? Probably not. You're going to get focused because you're focused on the finish line. You have to focus on the finish line. It doesn't mean that you don't care about them. You're going to focus on that, and when you get to the finish line and after you win, you can come back and give them a high fives. They can give you water. But if you get distracted, you're running, then they call your name. Oh, Kerry, we love you. Go like, I love you too. Then you lose. That's what you do. You can't afford to be distracted. And this is what I've learned. You need to have your guys on the go and your feet on the ground. Eyes on the go, your feet on the ground. And what that means is that you have your eyes on the finish line and your feet on the ground. You have to keep moving. You wake up in the morning, things are not working, keep moving. You got to keep moving, making phone calls, talking to people, doing the showings, asking people to mentor you. You have to keep going when you're going through tough times. We say when you find yourself going through hell, keep walking. There's a reason why they say that. Keep walking. The point is you are going through hell. You don't live there. Some people live there. They sit and they feel sorry for themselves. Oh my God, nobody loves me. Nobody showed up to the meeting. Why did they change their mind? I thought they told me they were ready to buy. How can they do that to me? Oh, now they can. Because number one is their decision. But your dream is your dream. They don't care about the commission check that you're expecting and it's not about the money. It's about what you are going to do with the money. Your dream is your dream. Your eyes on the go, your feet on the ground. Something happened in 2017. I went through a very rough patch in my business. I had a major contract in 2016, part of 2017, and then I lost the contract in May of 2017. And things went down very fast. Within 3 months, I ran out of money. Because again, I come from a big family. I was taking my brothers through college. I was doing so many other things. I didn't have a lot of savings. And so I was behind on my rent. I was behind on my bills, my car payments. I had this girlfriend that I had promised that I was going to marry her in 2017. It was tough. And I had to make one tough decision to find a way to supplement my income. So guess what I did? I decided to become an Uber driver. And I did it for 5 months. And I remember when I made that decision around 11 p.m. in my apartment, I sat down and I said, my dream is still alive. I'm not going to quit. And I said, if I'm going to become an Uber driver, I'm going to be the best Uber driver ever. So I would wake up in the morning, dress up in a suit like this, go drive for Uber from 4 in the morning until 7:30, go home, take a shower, go to the office, see a few clients that I had, coaching clients. In the evening at 5 o'clock, drive for Uber until midnight, sometimes 2 in the morning. And I did that for 5 months. And I've told that story over and over again, and I'm so proud that I did that. So it doesn't matter what you go through, your dream needs to be kept alive. Your dream is still going to be there. Now, I was talking to a friend of mine who again went through a rough patch about when COVID came, by the way. He lost all his clients, and I gave him the same advice. I said, hey, you can drive for Uber, or you can do a few other things. And he said, I don't want to drive for Uber. What if some of my clients, they get in the car, or people get in the car, and they think now I'm not a good professional? And I was like, dude, you just told me you don't have any clients. So just drive for Uber. Make some money. You got to swallow your pride when you're building your dream. Life is going to knock you down, but you got to swallow your pride. Okay, here's step number 5. You need to inspire others. And you inspire others not necessarily by speaking like me, the way I do, but by the things that you do. People watch. People do what they see people do. They watch you in your office, in your home, in your social circles. You inspire others. So let's say you go through a tough time. And somehow, which you should, you get up on the other side. Or at least even when you're going through it, people are watching you. You are waking up every single morning. You're very diligent in doing what you're supposed to do. Those that are behind you, and I mean the people that are starting out, or they are in the beginning of going through this tough time, or they are new agents, they have done it for 2 years, you have done it for 10, they can look at you and say, me too. If Anna can do it, I can do it as well. If Isaac can do it, I can do it as well. Me too are the 2 most powerful words. Me too. Me too, I'm going through that, but I'm looking up. I know I can go through that. That's how you get to inspire other people. Now, I get to tell my story a lot, and now my story probably sounds a little better than it was many years ago. And the story that I tell is a story of inspiration and hope, because I know it's possible. People get impressed when I talk about, I came from the village, but what made my story beautiful is being in Kansas City, whereby people who didn't have to have an interest in me have. My first clients, when I got into business, were people from Kansas City. And I'm just going to say this is going to be relevant. Now, when I told some of my friends, my Kenyan friends, which I told you they don't help that much, they told me, Isaac, don't get into this coaching thing. Coaching, speaking, training, it's for white people. That's what they told me. And I looked at myself, I was like, wow, okay, I guess I'm not lucky. But again, it's misinformation. People don't say that because they don't like you. They don't have the knowledge. It's not their dream. And I stepped out there and they say that, hey, my clients, they're not just, black folks. And I can say black because I'm black. It's okay to say black. But the point is, you got to inspire other people. I'll tell you one more story. After that rough patch, I got a contract with a company that gave me, to travel quite a bit. But the way they used to do it, they wouldn't pay you upfront. They'll pay for your air ticket, they'll pay you for your hotel, and then they pay you a week after you do the training. I had a 5-day training. I went to Lansing, Michigan to do the training. At that time, really my bank account was negative 200. I was behind on my bills, and I looked at my car, I didn't have gas. So I went to a little bag that I had change, and it wasn't like the good change, like quarters and dimes. No. It was just pennies and nickels, because I had plucked out all the quarters. And I took that bag, I took it to a place called Price Chopper, that magical machine, and I put that, that change there. It kind of did its thing, and it spit out a voucher, and I got the cash. I crossed over the other side. I gassed up my car with 2 gallons, and I got myself a hot dog, and I went to the airport. Now I'm going to the airport with a negative 200 in my account. And as I was going to the airport, I freaked out. I was like, what am I doing? What if there's an emergency? What if, you get stuck in Lansing, Michigan? You don't even know where you are going. I was like, I'm just going to go. Got to the airport. Now, those that have left their car in the airport, you have to pay for the car when you are picking it up. So I dropped the car there, but I didn't know how I was going to pay for it. Got to the airport, and when I sat there waiting for my flight, a thought came to me, and I got so overwhelmed. I was like, Isaac, the journey has been too long. You're a trained engineer. You can go back and get a job. Okay, you come from a loving family. Why can't you just go back to Kenya? Why can't you just go back and get a job? And then the other thought was like, you have a dream. You can feel it. You can hear it. You know what's going to happen. So I got in the plane and I went to Lansing, Michigan. The cool thing when you stay in a hotel, they give you breakfast in the morning. So that night I had coffee, black coffee for dinner because I didn't have money. That little coffee machine that they have in the hotel. Sometimes they don't even clean it. So I had, but I used it anyway, drank black coffee, woke up in the morning at 5, got my training room ready, I had my breakfast, and then, as any good human being, I packed myself an extra plate of the breakfast because that's what I was going to eat for dinner. And I did that for 4 days. And then on the 4th day, the night before the 5th day, and I was supposed to come back to Kansas City, I freaked out. I was like, my account is negative 200. And I need to get my car from the airport, and I'm behind on my rent. I'm not going to get paid for another 1 week. What am I going to do? And before I went to bed, I'm a person of faith. I decided to pray. It wasn't one of those fancy prayers. I just closed my eyes, barely closed my eyes. I was like, okay, God, just help me out. And I went to bed. Woke up in the morning, and when I woke up, I was like, let me just log into my account to see how negative it is. And when I logged in, my account had positive $1,300. And I was like, okay, something is wrong. So I logged off and I logged in, blinked twice to make sure that I can see it right. And again, it was positive 1,300. Here's what happened. I had done some work for someone so many months earlier. I had tried to collect. They did not pay me. Somehow they deposited money into my account. My rent was $900, so I was able to pay my rent and also pay my bills. But this is what happened. And this is what happens whenever you kind of get, a windfall and some good money. That morning, because I had money, I did not eat breakfast in the hotel. I crossed over to Chick-fil-A, I had breakfast, and then I went back and did my training, and on my way to the airport, I passed by Subway and got myself a foot-long. And I was like, I'm going to eat all this. Finally, I can eat a foot-long. But the point is, you keep your dream. You gotta keep it alive. You go through these tough times, but when I look back, it was meant to be. So, the last thing is for you to remember your beginnings, where you came from. Now, I remember where I came from. I know you remember where you came from. Think about what got you into this business. The first time you decided to become a realtor, the first time you decided to become a real estate professional, what thought process did you have? What kind of feelings? Who talked to you? Go back to the beginnings. And most likely you're going to find the reason why you need to stay. Most of the times, the reason that got you into it is the reason that's going to make you stay. You got to go back to the beginnings. For me, it was my mom when I was in 5th grade. For me, it was my teacher in 6th grade. For me, it was my principal when I was in 7th grade. And it was all the people that have helped me. In Kansas City, people have been mentoring me. And somehow, you can't explain this. Coming from the village, and here you are, speaking, getting paid, having awesome friends. There's no logical way of explaining it if it's not a dream that you have. Remember your beginnings. So I'm going to share something with you. This is me right here. If you can see it, probably you can see it. But that's me right there, okay? So this was my math teacher That was my English teacher, Mr. Nathan. This was my 8th grade class. And actually, that's my cousin. He lives in Dallas, Texas. So this group of people helped me to become who I was. We were very close-knit. And we knew that we wanted to go to high school. So we had study groups. We helped each other. So that's where I came from. And if you want to go to Kenya, by the way, I'll take you. So that was me. Now, this is a school that I'm helping right now. Close to our home. That's me. That was last year. I was there. And actually, I'm going to Kenya on Saturday. My wife and the kids are there. We're going to go to the village where I came from, and we're going to give school supplies to the kids and give them books. We have some kids that we sponsor for their, just to get food and shoes and everything that they need. So that, going back to where I came from, it reminds me of who I am, and it contributes towards my business. There's no possible way, again, to explain. Now, these kids look really good because we've built these classes. If it was like 10, 15 years ago, the classes didn't have windows. There was no floor. It was just devastating kind of a situation. Now, here's a kid that I met in 2021. I went to Kenya in 2021, and I went to give them some school supplies. His name is Dennis. And he was in 8th grade, and he walked up to me and he said, Isaac, I want to work hard and pass my national exams so that I can go to high school, go to college, and come back and help people here the way you are helping us. By the way, his name is Dennis Wambua. We share the last name. He is not my son. Yeah, I'm not the father, okay? But he's a good kid, and that's him. He passed his exams, and I sponsored him to go to high school. That's the mom, and that's the dad. Now, they're wearing a McDonald's shirt, and people always ask a question, oh, no, do they work at McDonald's? No, they don't, because we collect clothes, and we send them to Kenya. It doesn't matter whether it's a KFC shirt, McDonald's. Right now, I have a full suitcase full of clothes. Now, these are good clothes, and we send them, and then we just give to them. So that boy has a dream. He is now in high school, a senior in high school, a junior in high school, and he's doing very well, and we have several other kids. Now, being able to help these kids, it takes me back to where I was. I was the kid who didn't have shoes, all right? But with the parents' permission, they allowed me to show that. I was that kid. It takes me all the way back. Remember your beginnings, where you came from. So let's talk about your next bold step. And I'm calling it a bold step because it's going to take courage, it's going to take guts, it's going to take grit, it's going to take passion. Number one, you need to make a decision. Make a decision today that you are going to succeed. Make a decision that you're going to move despite the circumstances. Make a decision that nothing and no one is going to stop you. Make a decision. Now, we say that you should make a decision, then you manage that decision every single day. Don't be the kind of person who goes like, maybe I'm going to do it. Maybe I'll think about it. Maybe I'll pray about it. No, stop praying and just do it. Make a decision and then manage that decision every day. And number two is to take baby steps. I can talk about babies. I have 2 of them. My daughter is 4. My son is 24. So I've watched them grow. And I know the confidence they usually have even when they fall down. You take those baby steps. If you are struggling right now, most likely your company has a blueprint. Your mentor has given you your blueprint. Your broker has given you a blueprint on what to follow. Start taking those baby steps, making phone calls, sending emails, doing some marketing, talking to people, expressing your desires and what you want to do. Make sure you take those baby steps, because baby steps always equal sure success. I said the future is predictable. When you take a step, a very small step, you can be assured even when you wobble a little bit, everything is going to be okay. By the way, I'm going to give you these slides here in a second. So I know some of you are writing really fast, but I'm going to give you the slides. So I just want you to turn to the person next to you again and tell them, I am a big deal. I am a big deal. I'll say one last thing. I don't know much about you. I know a few people here, Chris and Shayla and Kerry. I don't know much about you, but there's one thing I know for sure. And if you don't have faith in yourself, and by the way, faith is evidence of things not seen. It's believing in the future even before you see it, okay? Even though I don't know much about you, I have faith you're going to be successful. I know that for sure. And you can't tell me that I'm wrong. I know for sure. So I believe in you. I believe in your success. And if for some reason you don't believe in yourself, just borrow my faith and ride on it. Give me a call. Isaac, I'm struggling. I'm not going to motivate you. I'm just going to remind you about your dream, the dream that you had, the dream that you've had all these years. Maybe you've let it slide down a little bit or become dormant, but you got to keep it alive. So you got to have a dream. You have to keep the dream alive. You have to protect the dream. You have to stay focused, feet on the ground, eyes on the goal, and you have to inspire others. And that's it. Thank you so much. Um, if you want to get the slides, scan this QR code. It's going to ask you a few questions. Basically, it's feedback for me, and then you're going to get the slides. Thank you so much, guys.